Haven't been talking the entire time I've been. Hey, how's it going, everybody? I had my mic muted literally the entire time I've been live. So that's been cool. I'm just talking to myself. We're here tonight. We are painting some dudes from Specter. This is a Plaid Hat Games game, part of Asmodee Fantasy Flight, if I remember correctly. Now the game was designed by Emerson Matsuuchi, who is a great game designer. Just some game pieces from Spy game, hidden movement mechanic Spy game. So basically, you either are the master thief who's going in trying to steal an item from a secured location, or you are the spy hunters who are, tasked with finding the spy. Yeah, that's basically the like real simple gist of the game. It is an asymmetrical game, so if you are the spy hunters, you obviously have different abilities. Each one of the spies has their own abilities. They're all in sort of a cyberpunky aesthetic, so I figured they're slightly larger as far as scale goes than, say, like our regular GW minis, so like our heroic 32s or whatever they're calling them now. Whatever, GW scale. So they're a little bit larger than that. Just they're not the greatest sculpts. They're lacking a little bit in detail, and I just wanted to hang out, paint on stream, see how things were going with everybody. So I decided to go live. Obviously, because I wasn't actually talking to anybody before, this guy is the Raven, so I'm going to give him a little bit of blue-black good times. And since we are doing an actual, because these are cyberpunky dudes, probably going to do them all with some variety of edge highlighting sort of a deal, so may as well get into that while we're at it. Right now, our friend here has just some Cantabric blue and black that I airbrushed onto him. I've had this game for a couple of years now, and it was just one of those things that I was always like, I should paint these dudes. Like, they're kind of neat looking. Like, I should give them a paint job. You know how that, like, oh yeah, I should do that thing. Then it's never really done. Because, like, GW releases 17 models a week, so, like, and I like GW models, so I tend to paint those. I don't know. In the meantime, we did finally get some time to throw some paint on this guy, so I'm happy for that. Wondering what you guys are up to on a Saturday night, if there's any projects you guys were working on today or decided to start working on this evening. We're still very much in lockdown in Calgary, so it's just one of those things that, what better way to spend a lonely Saturday night painting up some models from a fun little game. So the game itself is asymmetrical. So you're normally playing one versus many, and if you were the master thief or the spy or whatever it is, listen, I'm not great with the lore of this game, so if we are expecting me to do a lore explainer or a let's play, ain't happening. I am not the guy for that. Let's see if we can get a little closer to the camera. Just lots of contrast going into the lens, giving it a little bit of a hard time, but that's all right. Probably turn the overheads off or down a little bit, and it help things as well. But yeah, you'd think I'd do that, but it'd probably be good for watch stats and all the rest of it. So I will take care of it in a second here. I just wanted to get some quick paint on these guys. I told myself when I bought the box, I was like, I should paint these guys at some point. They're kind of cool. They're bigger scale and all the rest of it. So I'm just going to go through and do some quick blending on these guys. Get some color onto them. Probably going to start off just a little bit of volumetric highlighting. I'm not going to get crazy with these guys. Again, they're board game pieces, so like you can see there's some pretty spotty sculpts on this stuff, so it's not. Plastic is incredibly soft and very, very spongy, so like all those things combined to make me like, I want to paint them. Like I want to get they were all gray plastic is what it was, so they all started off as gray plastic, and I was like, well, I don't want to just me, I don't want my friends to have to just play with gray plastic when we're doing this. So that being the situation I found myself in, I was like, well, I know what to do about this. I just hadn't up until now, because life is busy and whatnot. So we're just going to get a little bit of volumetric highlighting done on these guys. I'll come through and do a little bit of touch-ups as far as some edge highlighting kind of a deal. But I'm not planning on like super exquisite paint jobs on these guys or anything. I'm just going to kind of wing it a little bit, give them a little bit of color. Mostly so that they match their box art. That's pretty much it. I just, you know how it goes. You know, you're looking at gray and you're like, well, that would be so much cooler if it wasn't gray. Hey, Mr. Ed. How you doing? I guess it is morning in the UK. How are you doing this morning? So I'm just putting some Cantabric glue. I don't have the palette cam on tonight because I found out that I've overheated my phone enough times that the adhesive has failed on my sad little Pixel 4. So I'm gonna try and save my phone for the next major release from Google. So I'm gonna try and hold out. I got a webcam on order that'll take over from the webcam, but I'm not gonna be putting my my poor little Pixel 4 into the ringer of being on the palette cam sling. Just I need the phone to, you know, have a phone. So we're probably not gonna have a palette cam tonight, but I am using Cantabric glue from Scale 75 right now. It's just over a base of black and a little bit of Cantabric glue that I mixed in. I shot basically zenithal from it. Oh, things are going well. Vet appointment for the dog today. It was just her annual checkup for Artemis, so things are going all right. How are things going with you, Mr. Ed? And because these guys are kind of cyberpunky, I don't mind the idea of doing a lot of like bold edge highlighting on these dudes. I think it sort of adds to the like Tron-y, cyberpunky sort of look that they get on the box art. So why not? Just straight up, why not in this case? I'll eventually mix in a little bit of sky blue for some of these edges. Not all of them are going to get super high highlights. Like, we're not going to get... As I said, I don't really feel like getting crazy with these particular figs. I'm going to try and knock out 4 of them while we're on stream tonight, so... I feel like that should qualify us for enough. Meds. Huh. Well, that's alright. I guess if you fall asleep on me, that's alright. I understand. Mr. Ed, I don't think you've actually caught me while Adam's been online, too. That's super weird. I haven't had you, Sean, and Adam all on the stream at the same time, which is weird, because Adam's normally my co-host. And I think that you've caught me on both the streams where Adam has been away. Adam's obviously taking the night off right now, so he's off doing his thing, and Sean is our, like, #1 YouTube viewer. So Mr. Ed currently takes, I think you are my number one Twitch viewer, and then over on YouTube Live, it's definitely Sean who is our number one, so it's a crazy situation. But yeah, man, if the meds kick in and you pass the F out, that's cool. I appreciate you stopping by, man. Yeah. So it took me a grand total of about 15 minutes to get these things shot with. Honestly, I just did rattle can, so I have a can of old GW. I think it's just probably a Mechanica Standard Gray. And then we went in with this one, was a little bit more involved. Actually, I think I did it with all of them, where I put a black base on them and then zenithaled in whatever the color I wanted them to actually be was. So, you know, I spent a little bit of time, I guess, laying down some base color, but again, not super worried about this being the crispiest paint job on the planet. Again, these are board game minis, so just trying to get a little bit of paint. Oh, wow. All right, well, have fun with the morphine, man. That sounds like a hell of a trip. I mean, I don't mean to make light of it, but the last time I have a mild opium allergy, so I don't often get fun painkillers. Like, it's in my med file because, like, when they gave me morphine in the hospital when I was getting my appendix out when I was like 11, I had a pretty nasty reaction post-op, and so they decided it was morphine addiction. Ooh, yeah, okay, that'll do it for you. I've got a herniated disc in my spine as well. It is supposedly inoperable, though we're going to do probably another surgical consult on it at some point in the near future, because it is getting to the point where, like, it affects a lot more of my life than I'd like it to. Generally, when I'm controlling my weight well, it's not so bad, but I'm also more active than I used to be, so having the 2 dogs and all the rest of it, and they just don't straight up don't understand that, like, my spine doesn't move like that all the time. So I keep minor injuring to it, like getting minor injuries, but yeah, that sucks, man. Prolapse disc is that is no fun at all. I do not envy that to you. At any rate, they decided that I had a mild opium allergy, so I'm not allowed to have any of the fun drugs right around Christmas time. Well, actually, yeah, it was just after Christmas this year. I had to have one of my wisdom teeth removed, and basically got through that with Tylenol. Sorry, they recommended me ibuprofen, but they recommended me like a dosage of ibuprofen. So definitely worked out in my favor. Yep, everything about it was great. But everything about it was great. I basically had no pain management for the like week and a half of recovery. So that was fun. Being an adult's great. So again, I'm going to do some of the upper edge highlights, just stuff that's really prominent here across the top of the model. I mostly wanted to come on and be live. Just to hang out with you guys. Hang out with Miss Red. Tic Tac. You know, they keep talking about these Tic Tacs. I don't know if you guys are hearing about this in the UK. So obviously I'm close enough to America that I get a lot of American news in my my daily news digest. And the American government keeps admitting that there are aliens, hoping that everyone will forget that they still live in America, I guess. Well, not that there are aliens, that UFOs exist and that they've been documented by the American government. They're like, no, we know that there are these flying Tic Tacs, so everybody keeps describing these things as being flying Tic Tacs that are breaking the laws of physics as we know them and all the rest of it. Sorry, just when you said Tic Tac, that is literally where my mind goes first. I'm like, ooh, flying saucers. well, flying Tic Tacs, I guess. They're not even saucers in this case, which, to be honest with you, is... I'm not sure if that's a disappointment or like a real bonus. I haven't mentioned it, but I'm starting to mix sky blue into our... into our Cantabric blue, and now I'm just gonna throw a little bit of I've got some white ink on the palette, just in some of the like highest highlights. I'll come back in with a super thin tracing of sky blue and white together. And because I refuse to get a responsible brush for this, I'm gonna end up using the tip. Try and paint on some white stuff, just where we got nice sharp points that are all coming together, or they're on prominent features that I think would get a lot of light on them. Again, this will help to sell the illusion of hardened armor. This guy's wearing some hardened armor. His name is Raven. So I feel like a mostly black paint job with some high highlights gonna take care of him just fine. I'll probably do a face here in a minute, so I'm just gonna get some of the highlights onto the stuff around his face. I'm not even going to pay attention to his hands, because these are board game pieces for the game Specter. So while they are decent games, like while it's a decent game, the stuff that really makes this up is, I mean, it's Plaid Hat Games, and it was Plaid Hat Games prior to the purchase by Asmodee Final Fantasy, or Fantasy Flight Games, not Final Fantasy, Fantasy Flight Games. So it's just one of those things that they're just sort of okay. Like they were, I'm certain they were right near the top of what, like, especially for board game miniatures, they're really nice for being board game miniatures, but they are just like, they're board game minis. Like, they're nice, but they are, you know, spongy plastic combined with like, Listen, I feel like I'm trying to justify something that needs no justification. I just want to put a little bit of paint on these so they're not gray plastic anymore. I feel like everybody can get around that. I might grab a second color here. Just, I see some buttons and stuff, and I want to... Okay, I'll grab 2 more colors. Like, actual, like, basic colors, not just... So I'd like to see a little bit... There's something going on the side of him here that I'd like to sort of map out. Nice. What'd you order off of Etsy? To be honest with you, I don't think I've ever ordered a 3D print off of, like, either off of Etsy or off of, like, what was the old, the 3D printing service. Now I can't remember its name. I keep wanting to say something Rocket, but that is completely incorrect. You could just send them an STL and they would send it to whoever was closest to own a 3D printer and would actually take on your print. And now I'm forgetting their name. My brother used to use them all the time, and then, you know, he found out it was way cheaper to, like, save up a couple months just buy a 3D printer, and, you know, he's also an engineer, so it's one of those things that I think he mostly justified the, like, first couple of just, I want to buy a 3D printer. I'm an engineer, so I definitely need this thing, even though there's, like, no conceivable way I need it for either my employment or for anything other than, like, I want to use it for my hobbies. But I'm pretty sure his employer, I'm pretty sure, helped kick in the first one, because also engineers and a bunch of engineers, when they get, you know, their minds on how to spend their budgets creatively, just spend their budgets on whatever they feel like most of the time. It feels that way to me. I could be wrong. But also, money for toys is important. It keeps your engineers from, I don't know, holding a revolt. Thinking about how they could probably run the company better than you. Definitely not a message I've ever heard an engineer say. I know you guys can't see my facial expression, but I've definitely been told by several engineers about how they could run things better than literally anybody I've ever met. Because I don't know if it holds true for engineers around the world, but at least North American engineers are fairly convinced that they are actually deities. And that if they ever deign to, put their vast intellect into a problem that you're facing, they could solve it immediately because engineering. They would just have to apply the principles of engineering to it. Totally solve whatever problem. Beastslayer, Lord of the Legion. Needs a bit of work. Ooh, neat. Throw up a link if you got it. Just throw it in chat. I'd love to take a look at it. Or if you want, Mr. It, I can send you the Discord invite link. Or it should be actually in the Willow in the description. I know it doesn't show up on under my profile. You should be able to head over to the Discord from there. If not, just let me know and I'll swap it around. If you use Discord, that is. If not, no problem. Okay, this guy needs some skin color. He's got a face in there, and I'm gonna give him some glowy eyes because I think that's much more hilarious than him just having a regular old face. Because like Cyberpunk things, I don't know. Ravens just have normal black eyes, so I don't know. Maybe I'll give him like a purple glowing eye or something like that. That feels ridiculous to say, but now I want ravens to actually have purple glowing eyes in real life. No, never mind. You know what? I've been swooped by enough magpies in my life that never mind. I don't want corvids to have glowing eyes on top of their like relative animal bird smarts being off the chart. I don't need super smart things standing outside of my or sitting outside of my window staring at me with glowing eyes in the middle of the night. That seems like nightmare fuel. Ah, you're on a PS4. Alright. No problem. I'll look it up later. Beastslayer, Lord of the Legion. Hang on. Why would I look it up later? I got all this crap around me right now. Lord of the Legion. Let's see. Oh, dude, that guy looks great. Oh, okay. I've actually seen these guys before. Did you get it in 40 or did you get it in... Like, what scale? Did you go for the full 75 or... I guess wargaming or collectors? I've recently been thinking more about doing whether like not for one of the regular series ones, but just like for my own edifice to see if I can do some larger scale stuff. I've never actually painted like these guys are larger scale, obviously, than our regular Marines and stuff. I don't even have a Marine sitting on my desk. What's a good here? Pretty reasonable size difference. Got a that's just a GW. Obviously, it's a KO dude versus these guys. They're quite a bit taller. They're not heroic scale, so they don't have giant heads and hands. But scale wise, they're larger than they look, just because the proportions don't really match up. Custom chapter master, neat. Yeah, I've never really gotten much into, like... That's not true. I've thought of many custom chapters, and I started one at one point, not long after 8th launched. And then I remembered that I don't really like painting Space Marines that much. Which is silly, because I have, like, an entire series where I'm painting 20 Space Marines. 20 plus Space Marines, as I've already added 3 extra Space Marines to, like... to my work. But the thing that I don't like about painting Space Marines is I just don't like painting. Like, I don't like painting intercessors. I don't like painting armies, period. Which is why the hundredths, when we get to 100 followers, between 100 followers, 100 subscribers, when we get to our combined 100 target, and I have to paint the equivalent of a start collecting box, you guys are going to watch me rapidly descend into insanity through, like, however many. I think it'll take a little bit more than 24 hours. I'm not that efficient. Like, I'm not going to get done in... Actually, I you know what? Knowing what models I have to paint, we're doing Sigmar start collecting boxes. Well, Adam's doing start collecting box. I am doing my custom army, my City of Sigmar. The Tempest size. You've seen them. But we're going to do those as just a long stream. We'll probably take breaks, if I'm honest. I don't think that Adam or I, we're both in our 30s. Can't imagine that either of us wants to be up for 24 hours in a row, but, we'll see how it goes. Maybe we will make it an actual 24-hour stream, but I have a feeling that both of us are not that person, and 100 followers is not that sort of internet fame where I need to do a 24-hour challenge, but we'll see. If you guys are in for it, we could probably get there. I'm not gonna lie to you, probably could. But yeah, I just don't like painting that many Space Marines. It's a little easier with Never Fallen because I'm not painting the same armor over and over again, and I get to add details and story and stuff, and that sort of keeps me engaged. I used to take commissions and stuff for Space Marines, and just sort of soul-crushing part of it. Yeah, doing 24-hour streams when you're like, I'm 36. It's 2021, so yeah, I'm 35 right now for another like 2 weeks. Yeah, I used to take commissions for. I never did full armies, but I would do squads and stuff like that. And by the time I was done doing the like 400th, let's see, I kind of dropped off with the Iron Hands meta. That was kind of the last of them that I did, and I was like, there's got to be a better way of monetizing my hobby on this one. It was basically what it came down to. I was like, there has to be something that I enjoy more than painting all black Space Marines with the same edge highlights, with the same chapter markings and badges, and the 4 same sculpts over and over and again, and everybody wants them to have the same weapons because that's what's in the meta, and they want 3-color painting because army standards for tournament, and that's basically it. Like, at least locally, they'll let you get away with the 3-color rule, so basically people would take Iron Hands or some sort of like Raven Guard successor, and they're like, do not put any more than 10 hours into the entire, army kind of a deal. That was just less fun than you'd imagine. Or about exactly as much fun as I'm describing it. Just awful. But I do like doing character commissions and stuff like that. Like, I still like getting the time to actually put some thought into a character and, take it on that way. I say that as I'm like, I'm going to complete 4 characters in about 3 hours, and I'm just going to do them simply. And here I am putting, like, inch highlighting and detailed crap on this dude. We'll see. I am excited to get into that, start collecting. So, when we hit that 100, I'm actually legitimately excited because I really like where that army is headed. Who knows? By the time it comes around, I might already hate it. But for right now, it is an exciting hypothetical in the future. So that is always better than the reality of having to do the project. So. Okay. Get more. This is just pink flesh from Scale Color that I'm getting on there. So. As you can see, I'm not even really putting it everywhere on the face, or I hope you guys can see that I'm not really even putting it everywhere on the face. I'm just sort of getting it to where the highlights are going to be. I'm not even gonna do like my regular transitions using a lot of yellow in the skin to bring up the transitions on this stuff. I'm literally just gonna get this on here. I got a bottle of Reichland that I haven't used in, goodness, it's gotta be more than a year, hopefully. I had a bottle of Reichland Flush Shade around here somewhere. If not, I think I have. I don't know. We'll find something. That's Agrex. Hey, we do. How far am I off 100? We're at, what, 38, 40, 42. A little better than halfway. And also, I mean, like, yeah, we've been at this for, what, a couple months, but I don't know. There are good days and bad days as far as followers go. Good days with followers, you know, we add 10 followers. Bad days and followers, we add 1. So, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm sure that by the end of the summer we will get there, and I'll start putting it up on the stream too. Like I'll actually, when I go to redo the graphics package, which I'm gonna do probably this week, since I'm not as busy. No, it might be July before I get a chance to redo the graphics package because of work. But when I redo the graphics package, I will put the follower goal on there, and hopefully that'll help to pick things up a little bit. And, you know, we'll do all of our giveaways and whatnot on the stream where we hit 100, and then for our 100th follower celebration, we'll do the big 24-hour stream, and hopefully we can get some more people in on that one. Talking to some of the other painters that I'm friends with, either on Insta or other streamers, and hopefully they can give me a hand and get me over the line so that we can really start picking up some momentum. Not that I don't enjoy talking to you, Mr. Ed, but, you know, it's just one of those things. If I can hit the affiliate, then at least I can start streaming in a reasonable resolution. Should do some tutorial streams. You know, I've thought about it. Is there a tutorial stream you think I should do? My favorite, like the favorite of my streams that I do, or that I watch, because I watch lots. I like to hang out in hobby streams. Like I do appreciate like Miniac's stream when him and Ninjon are on. I really like I like some of the like paint along stuff where it's like, hey, we're all gonna grab this model and let's do it all together, and I'll explain you what my approach is gonna be, but like go however you feel like it. Like I do appreciate that sort of thing. So those were my other ideas for like less, hey, we're just hanging out doing our hobby, putting in our hobby hours. By putting in our hobby hours, that makes it sound really like dire and sad, but like, you know, we're all just hanging out doing some painting and whatnot. But yeah, I could always put together some actual tutorial ones. I'd need to do a little bit. Spray gun is in an airbrush? I gotta say that my airbrush skills are pretty much, they're not, obviously, I airbrush base coats on this guy. It's not that I won't use an airbrush, it's that I'm still faster, I feel, at least I'm faster with a brush than I am with an airbrush. Because this is mostly just a hobby for me, right? Like even the commissions and stuff are mostly just like supporting me buying more gear for the hobby. Like it was just a justification for me to buy more stuff and paint more things. Like really what it came down to for me. I am not the greatest with the airbrush. If you're looking for people who are great with airbrushes, I'm sure that Angel Heraldez would already have this thing. Like Angel would already have this thing entirely painted with an airbrush. But you know, he also was the, you know, resident artist for Infinity for, I don't know, 10 years. Feels like it was about 10 years. And he is great with an airbrush. He is undoubtedly probably the best of us with an airbrush. Just because he'll paint like Infinity miniatures mostly with an airbrush. Yeah, I mean, I can set up the airbrush in here and do a tutorial of it. As I said, I am not... Airbrush is not my forte. I like to use it for base coating. I like to use it for zenithal. I like to use it on vehicles and large scale stuff, scenery, that sort of thing. But when it comes down to like details and like advanced techniques with the airbrush, I understand the theory of it, but like my practice is just, I don't have what it takes to put in the patience to do it properly. Like I'm never gonna break out the masking tape and mask off. That's not true. I've done it on a couple of occasions. I had some towels that I commissioned, or somebody commissioned from me at one point in time, and those towel actually got masked off just because it was way faster. I could put down, they were towel race, and so like a bunch of towel race, cool. I can mask off large areas of the race and just kind of go with it. It requires more patience for the size of figures that we're doing than I'm normally willing to put in. Other than that, it's just about paint consistency, right? Like when push comes to shove with an airbrush, a lot of it comes down to futzing about with paint consistency and trying to keep paint viable. Because I've explained this before. Where I live is essentially a desert. It's not actually a desert, but like it was 30 degrees this week, 30 degrees centigrade this week for most of the week. The weather broke today, and now it's back down to our regular temperature of 18 to 20. I think it got to about 20 degrees today, which is glorious and beautiful and an actual survivable temperature. 30 degrees is not. Like I have a wet palette here. Green stuffs, inks, washes, different fur bases. Yeah, there's lots of stuff to do tutorials on. Yeah, I'll think about it. Like if we can come up with a good tutorial, I mean, I have no problem running tutorials for you guys. Yeah, as I said, I started the stream off with the idea of doing mostly paint along. I wanted to get through some of our, some of my first ideas, because I also wanted to do some competition painting, which I admittedly haven't done a lot of, and I just wanted to sort of get there. I mean, I say I haven't done competition painting. I've done competition level painting. Like I didn't enter MNO because I don't want to do online only contests, which has been sort of a bummer. Like I was finally sort of ready to get into the competition space, and COVID happened. And by ready, I mean I decided that like, okay, it's good for me to go and like try and win an award, at least go and get like a golden demon from somewhere, because and now is not a time. I have seen so much that people put down in lockdown that I've seen enough that other people put effort into in lockdown, and I didn't get to it. Like I honestly didn't. I spent a lot of my time in lockdown just being sad and not painting. So I didn't do this is my 2 years of being alone piece. So hopefully, we'll sort of get it all out of our system this year and next year, and then, it's not that I'm looking for an easier time to win. It's that I don't really want to go against Ben Cantor sending in 40 entries again this year, winning literally every golden demon and 2 slayer swords basically in a single competition somehow. Like last year was ridiculous. Well, not 2020, 2019. Ben came out like a god, and we've all seen his stuff on, well, at least I've seen his stuff on Instagram. Knowing that that's the stuff that's going up, and he hasn't talked about his actual entry pieces yet. I am so stoked to see what everybody has painted. Like, I'm really excited for that. It's just that I don't feel like I can necessarily handle that competition right now. That seems a little too rough. 18 to 20 seems reasonable. Like, it did rain all day today. Like, it's been on and off thunderstorms all day today, so that's reasonable to me. 30 degrees, I basically melted the whole time. Like, it was so hot that my dry palette was, like, I was losing paint on the wet palette. Like my paint was drying over on the wet palette, which I cannot explain to people. Like, I watched, like, video tutorials and stuff from other Americans or North Americans and stuff. They're like, oh yeah, like, there needs to be, you need to, like, they can't put out these wet palettes that just constantly, like, have hard seals on them and all the rest of it. Like, don't use the silicone gaskets and stuff because it just creates mold and stuff in the paint. And I'm like, man, if I don't put a weight on top of my, like, I legitimately put a weight on top of my wet palette when I go to store it for the evening. Otherwise, it will dry out. Like, I have to literally seal it down with something heavy on the top. Like, I normally put, like, a coffee cup, like either my paint cup or a coffee cup full of water on top of it. Otherwise, the seal doesn't work effectively enough. Like, this is a what is it? Redgrass. I think it was a Redgrass one. I did actually go into the Redgrass 2 Kickstarter, but yeah, if I don't have something on top of it, because I lost the elastic band a long time ago, if I don't have that on there, no es bueno. Like, by the next morning, there is all the paint that is on the wet palette is done, and the wet palette itself is bone dry. So, okay, enough pink skin. At least I think so. Let's see how we're doing. No, we still need some pink skin on this guy. I'm looking forward to Tuesday because I've got most of the Space Marine done. Like, most of the Intercessor armor done, and I did spend a little bit of time this morning getting my 3D printer sorted back out. So the 3D printer is now back to actually printing things as opposed to just wasting resin. So now that that is done, I've got my Naked Intercessor is going to be good to go here in a little bit. So that'll be nice. We'll have an Intercessor prepped and ready. We have most of his armor isn't drilled out yet, but I'll probably drill it out tomorrow. I got time. And then, yeah, we got, I did the last couple of things to Fabius Bile, and then we just got a little bit of stuff, and we're going to start painting. So I think we could probably probably by Tuesday, I'll have them ready to get painted on string, so that'll be fun. Although I am, right now, I'm using the, just going back to your comment there, Mr. Ed, about, like, other tutorials and stuff. I am starting to name them sort of tutorially, but I'm just going through and doing the thing I wanted to do anyways, which is, like, paint stuff. Thursday is going to be gray hair for the, because I got more dwarfs. So some of those dwarfs are going to have gray hair, because it seems like more fun to me. Specifically, I'm doing brown hair that has gone gray. So, like, not actual gray hair, but, like, you get me. How the heck do you have patience to do this? I would have said I'm done with this. For me, a lot of it is just, like, flow state, right? Unless, of course, we're talking about, being on stream. I don't know. It's fun. More fun than doing it alone. I used to have a painting circle, like, me and, like, my friends. Either who were painters or who weren't. They'd hang out with me. We'd all just hang out and chat together. watch bad movies and paint models. That was sort of like an activity that we could sort of do in the background, right? Like, not everybody paints the same way that I do. Not everybody's going to go to the same standard. I just happen to like painting to whatever this standard is. I'm going to call it tabletop. Well, especially with these guys, it's going to just be tabletop standard. But you can always quit whenever you want to. Like, there's nothing saying you got to do like 4 hours worth of painting on each one of these models, or even an hour worth of painting. Like, wherever you're happy, right? I think that's part of the hobby that gets lost on people, is that like, this is absolutely the like calmest I get to be in a week. I got a job, I got, responsibilities. I get to turn that all off for a couple hours while I like slap paint at a model and say like, this looks cool. Right now I'm just putting these guys all have the same flesh tone. They've all just got pink flesh from scale 75 on them. Right now I'm just going through with some pretty watery Reichland flesh shade. All I'm going to do with the shade is I'm going to drag it towards places that I actually want it to be shaded. Like, I'm not going to leave it over the flat of her belly there because that looks silly. But I will use the brush and just sort of pass it off into the places where it actually should be. So, in that little detail underneath of her rib cage there. And then up into the flat of her back here, especially in that there's a little bit of a concave around her spine there. It'll go there. Again, same deal around these places where she doesn't have stuff on her arms. Great. Let's just put it in there. I am being fairly careful around the places that I've already done in the yellow, because I don't want to have to deal with cleaning that stuff up right now. Like, that doesn't seem like fun, so I'm just not going to do it. And also, I've been doing this since I was, well, I mean, like, legitimately trying to do this. I've been doing it for like 6 years now. So I have gotten better at it as time goes by. So like, the patience becomes less of a factor as time goes by, just because it becomes either a part of the process and you just sort of expect that this is about how long I expect it to take. And if it takes that long, good. If it takes longer, I clearly missed my own arbitrary deadline. So we'll give the Reichland flesh shade just a couple of minutes here to do its thing. It's going to take some time to just hang out. It's going to chill. Like, it's just going to, I don't know, here, dry, however you want to call it. It's going to dry, basically. Onto the palette. So this guy was painted with, this is Mantis, by the way. All these guys are from, what's it called? Specter Ops by Plaid Games. This is Mantis. Obviously, Mantis is some sort of insectoid dude, so why not? Let's give him some insectoid features and then make him glow, because that sounds awesome. He was painted with erratic green from Scale Color and some black, just to get him to sort of where he's at. I'm going to throw on, so this is spring green that we're going to mix into our erratic green, and I'll just start to give him some more features. Let's start identifying some volumes and stuff. Just making the top of the chest a little bit lighter here so that sticks out. Probably the top of his head. Tops of his shoulders. We'll give it a little bit there too. So I did purposefully leave his face a little darkened, and I'm going to keep to that for the most part. The reason why I wanted his face a little bit darker is because I wanted to put a little bit of a glow around his eye, or coming out of his eyes, because, I don't know, he's looking pretty insectoid, so like, let's give him some glowy eyes just so he looks even more ridiculous. I mean, it is cyberpunky stuff, right? Like, so let's get that style over substance really sorted out on these dudes, and especially since they're in like military spec hardware and all the rest of it. Like, let's go to town, right? Like, why not? If there is ever a time where you are allowed to be ridiculous and flashy with something, I feel like the cyberpunk aesthetic is the one that is like absolutely asking for it. So let's get it done. I just noticed he's got some sort of like gem or chest thing, or in the middle of his chest here, so we're also going to give that a little bit of a glow. Just going to do some quick edge highlighting here. He's also got some crazy vent looking things here, so we'll give those some love here in a minute. We'll get those probably up to a nice glowy, I don't know. Do we want to go glowy red or glowy green on this guy? Or, sorry, glowy pink or glowy red on this guy? Or glowy green, I don't care. You guys tell me what you want. I mean, glowy green is going to be a little bit harder to do since this dude is already green, but we could do like a yellowy green or like a turquoise. We could get a glow in there. Even if it is green, we could get a glow in there. I have no doubt. We have that skill. So again, we're just mixing together. In this case, it's errati green and spring green. So spring green's a pretty nice, light, cool green. Errati green's a very, very, like, it is, when you're thinking green, right? Like when you're thinking the platonic green, it's very much that green. That is what you get when you get errati green. So let's get a little bit more brightness into the front of his chest here. Let's really pull that out. Get a little bit more just across his face here and across the top of his helmet. So yeah. So today, I took I've got two Shiba Inus, Artemis, who's 2 years old, and Apollo, who is 6 months old. And it was Artemis's annual checkup today. So she got to go in and see the doctor. She actually loves seeing her vet. Like, she really, really loves seeing her vet, so no drama from that, but I got told by my vet, and I know I shouldn't take Twitch/YouTube's advice about this. I got told by my vet that she has staining happening on her back molars, and my first and most visceral reaction to that was, well, duh. Like, she's a dog. And I love her, and I will do most anything for that girl. But she's like, well, you need to brush their teeth daily. And I was like, as she's telling me this, Artemis is in the process of like being like, you're trying to put your finger in my mouth. That is a no, thank you. Like, she's got her jaw just clamped shut. And I was like, yep. You see what I put up with here, right? Like, you really think I'm gonna just like brave the lion's mouth on a daily basis? I don't know. I know that brushing dog teeth is important and it helps with them not developing plaque or gingivitis, and like it can reduce some of their like later in life health symptoms potentially. Like, yes, I understand. But also, like, shrug emoji? I don't know. Like, I know I should feel stronger positive associations in this, but I just don't. Like, I love my dog, but like, she's not gonna live forever. She's not immortal. I'm not immortal. Even if I was immortal, I wouldn't really want to be. Also, I would hope that if I was immortal, at some point in time, we could figure out a better way of brushing our teeth and like rubbing them with like taking care of our teeth than like rubbing them with like nylon on a stick. Just not to be that guy, but I'm gonna be that guy for a second. Like, if I'm gonna be immortal, it doesn't matter what my teeth look like, because like in the long run, we're gonna invent something better than nylon on a stick and baking soda and like mild abrasives. I mean, just gonna be that guy for a second. Anyway, gonna keep working on Mantis here. I just want to get his chest up to where I'm happy with the brightness. I want him to look very much like the stereotypical praying mantis, so I am going with like kind of grassy greens, cool greens. I might incorporate a little bit of brown just into the backs somewhere, just so that I've got that real like grassy, through and through. Because this dude, you know, but look at him. He's basically wearing a robot. So, like, I don't know if this counts. The aesthetic of the game is very much a cyberpunk game. This is from, again, Specter by Plaid Games. The aesthetics of the game are very much like that sort of bridge between cyberpunk noir, like future noir, and straight up sci-fi. The reason why I say that is because it does have some of the noir elements. There's a heist that is like sort of the central motivator of it. You are, you know, working on the side of law and order, which isn't generally a cyberpunk trope, but I don't know. I feel like I don't know. We can debate whether or not Specter is a purely cyberpunk purely cyberpunk game aesthetically. I feel like we're not into the far future enough for it to be a real, like, I wouldn't pick it up and be like, this is a great example of a sci-fi game, like a sci-fi board game, because sci-fi board games to me are like Galaxy Road Trucker or like Twilight Imperium or I don't know, like, you know, you get me when we're talking about board games, or like Warhammer 40k is a sci-fi. It's not a sci-fi game. It is a It is a science soap opera. It is a mess. We call it that. Again, I love you, GW, but like your lore is a mess. Just keeps getting weirder. Anyway, now I'm in. I've stopped using a mix. I'm in just now with spring green, so this is my like high grassy highlight that I'm going to be using on some of the uppermost edges. Again, these are just like board game minis. I'm not super concerned about getting them to be the highest quality paint job. We're just going to come in now. I'm just using a size 2 from Winsor & Newton that is on the verge of dying. Like, it is not the greatest brush on the planet. But we're just going to do some edge highlighting just because. I like the aesthetics of edge highlighting when we're talking about sci-fi stuff, so give it a nice little edge highlight across a lot of this. Just make it look nice and clean and bright for our cyberpunk / sci-fi future, right? Edge highlighting is not normally a technique I have a huge amount of love for. I get why it is popular. I am actually going to swap brushes over to a number 1. Just not that the number 2 is unhandleable, but it is on its last legs, so it's starting to spread real bad as I'm using it, and I don't need quite that much water in the barrel right now, so why not make my life slightly easier? Again, this is a Winsor & Newton number 1. I've had this thing for like, it's got to be close to 6 months now, so it is also in its last legs, but are we gonna edge highlight every part of this thing? Nah. But we will give the edge highlights to where I think we are going to get the most effect out of them, just or places where I know that I need separation between like armor plates and stuff like that. Because again, I'm not going to paint every part of this dude. They're board game minis that I promised myself I would paint at some point in time, and I wandered through my house this afternoon and was like, oh, I should do those. Because I'm not going to lie to you, we're getting pretty close to being out of gray that I can slay right now. It's not that I don't have more projects that I would like to do. I mean, I backed I backed the Zodiac Kickstarter. Who was that? That was Chimera Models. I think it was Chimera Models. Scale 75 in Chimera. So that's on its way. I'm in the middle of building a custom army. I've got the models from a regular series from Never Fallen and Blood Bowl. I miss Guild Ball. Classic was a bad choice for Guild Ball. At any rate, Yeah, I have all those minis, and I'm creating more gray for that stuff. It's just that, yeah, I didn't feel it tonight. I wanted something a little bit more clean, straightforward, weird. So we're going with our little, like, sci-fi, cyberpunky dudes here. So, again, if you got any questions or whatnot, throw them up in chat. Oh boy. All right. Let's lay the groundwork here for getting some highlights, getting some glow effects coming off this boy. I'm going to start where I love to start with our sort of glow effects, assuming that I can find it. Somewhere around here, there's a big bottle of FW Dalarani white ink. You'd think it'd be close by because I like using it. Because the glorious part of white ink is just how high pigmented it is and how there it is. Dalarani FW, straight old white ink, so it's titanium white ink. The beautiful part of white inks, as opposed to other forms of white acrylics, is they do use still titanium white with these. So it is still a very, very nice, pure white. Ink is just intensely pigmented. So even on the acrylic that I'm using right now with the Dalarani stuff, to give you an idea, that is eventually. Can we get my thumb in the shot instead of, yeah, there we go. So this is acrylic white ink. It's thinned down a little bit, but not a whole lot coming off the brush. So you guys can see how opaque that is just going over my nail. In contrast, this is white paint. So this is scale 75 white. This is scale 7501. So even a few seconds after drying, you guys, and I can keep doing it. That is my brush loaded. Like, that is my brush loaded to a state where it's flowing off there fairly well. You guys can already see, like, that is the Dalarani ink. That is the scale 75 white. Because there is so much more pigment in inks. Because it carries so well. Because it is meant to flow so well. You can get away with cramming just the most amount of pigments into inks. And when I'm trying to do an effect, like a glow effect, I'm going to start off from an extremely bright white. Like, I don't want to start half measures. And because it flows off the brush readily, so you guys can see, all I have to do is just touch the brush in there, and it's flowing off into those, like, deep recesses on the armor, right? Parts that would normally, I would have painted this the other way around, where I would have gone white and then started doing all of my layering up around it, right? If I wanted to do glow effects, I would normally... You would have done this in a different order normally if you were trying to use it, or if you were building glow effects using just acrylic paint, right? But since I am using an ink, and because it has such high pigment in it, I can just take tiny amounts of it and drop it into the very deep recesses, and it flows fairly readily off the brush, which isn't something that I can say for most white acrylic inks. Generally, if it is thin enough to flow well, it is also starting to get pretty chalky, pretty crispy, which is always a sort of sad situation to be in. I am going to add a little bit more water to this just because it is being that sort of a day. There we go. That is flowing better. And the reason why I'm dropping it on there like this, as opposed to, say, going at it from a different direction. Like we could be working from our bright color or from our darkest color down. I am going to do that next. But when I need something to be bright, when I need it to be glowing internally, so glowing from the inside, I am going to drop a maximum bright into the very bottoms of the areas that I want glowing, so that I can come back in a few seconds and start layering in the glow color around it. I'll start with the deepest glow color, and then we'll probably, in the end, end up coming back to white nonetheless. So we will go through this entire process and then go back to our maximum white one last time at the very end. So stay tuned for that, baby. We called this one, instead of calling it, well, I guess I could change my title. Talk about glowing eyes, or glowing something or other. Glow. Sorry, I know I just dropped eyes in, but I did it off stream because, I don't know, I'm only in focus like a third of the time anyway. I am on ultra fast AF settings, autofocus settings, but it is always a balancing act with cameras. So, and obviously I've got the balance not quite right yet, but we get there. Let's work on. So this is actually Panther. Her name is Panther in the game. So let's get back to Panther. Let's bring the skin up a little bit, and then we'll swap out from this pink skin. We'll give her another skin tone after this in a few minutes. But now that I've got Raycliffe Fresh Shade mostly dried on there, I'm just going to come back. Tops of muscles and stuff like that. We'll give eyebrows here, the bridge of her nose, top sides of her cheekbones. Just going to come back, reinforce some of our colors up in the top of the part there. Again, across the cheekbone here. She got a little bit of an... She's basically wearing a ninja mask right now. Like, she is... Well, she's Scorpion, essentially. Like, she's got the yellow going on. Man, if there was ever one Mortal Kombat character that I was always hyped to play and was never good with, it was Scorpion. I was always hyped to play Scorpion. Scorpion and Reptile, and I was so bad at them as my mains. And they were my mains, and I remained bad at them. The only fighting game I've ever been, like, remotely good at, like, and I'm talking about, like, an arcade fighter, was Marvel Capcom 3. And it's only because I could have such a huge arsenal, like, I could cover so well with the team, that it, like, gave me a fighting chance. Otherwise, I don't even know if I would have been good at that game. Like, there's nothing, there is no part of... There's no part of me that is great at video games. We'll put it that way. I'm at best adequate at many video games. Other than maybe Diablo 2. Diablo 2, that's probably, like, if Diablo 2 and, to nobody's surprise, City Skylines, probably. Those are the ones that I'm actually, like, good at and understand enough of the meta to be good at. I'm decent at Civ games, but, like, I don't know. I feel like Civ games are just a race to exploits or a reset. I have played quite a bit of Civ 5. I didn't play Antares or 6. Mostly because, like, 2,000 hours in 5 was like, oh, I should be better than this. I should really be better than this. And yet here I am. At any rate, we are going to continue on. This is Fox. We're going to give Fox some facial features. Not loving the results of that Raycliffe Flesh Shade. And this is why I normally don't use shades. Just, it settles in weird places, and now I have to go back and even out her skin tones. give her proper definition again, and it's just because I was like, skin tone's too pink. I should really get in there and give it a little bit more contrast, and then this is where I end up. And it's a perfectly reasonable place to be. Like if you are, if you are coming to year from Warhammer TV, what you've been watching is a lot of Peachy and, well, I guess I don't even know if Dunk's stuff is still on. I'm certain they wouldn't take it down. But if you're watching, Chris paint dudes with contrast paint, and you're into the base coat, wash, highlight, cool. Welcome to a different way of doing things where I complain about everything that GW teaches and act like I'm better than that, when in reality I'm just willing to spend way more time on it. Or not. And in the cases of these models, we're probably going to go with and not, because they're board game minis, and I like the sculpts, not in love with them. Like, I'm doing this because I like the game. Whenever I sit down and I'm playing a board game and it's just full of and this is true of literally every game, when it's full of gray plastic, it just makes me sad. It makes me less interested to go back and play the game more. That's a dumb reason to not want to play a game anymore, but when I see unpainted plastic, I'm like, eh. Or when I see factory painted plastic, the same thing happens to me. I'm like, eh. Do I really need to play this game? I've got standards, don't I? Even though that's just a weird egotistical thing to say. It's a board game, who cares? I mean, the person who had to paint that paladin from whatever Betrayal on Haunted Hill is, except for with D&D characters, had to paint 4,000 of them that afternoon to meet quota. Why you being like this kind of a deal? But regardless, unpainted or poorly painted minis make me want to play a game less. So here I am painting minis for a board game. Again, I'm also not running out of stuff. The stuff that I have to paint has already kind of been spoken for, or is... I guess I could have gone out and bought some flares, some flayed ones, and could have done some flayed ones tonight, but maybe I'll save that for next week so we can do some flayed ones. You guys can see the Necron. So when I got my second puppy, Apollo came home in December? Yeah, it was December 12th he came home. Apollo is my younger of the two Shiba Inus I own. Apollo came home in December, and at that point in time, my painting setup and all the rest of it was all just in a room downstairs that I could easily close off, and I could keep him in his little puppy kennel and all the rest of it, and he slept 22 hours a day. So when he first came home, that was what I did, is I had 2 entire boxes of Indominus stuff. 2 entire boxes of Indominus Necrons that I had 0... that's not true. I had done 1 test model with whatever the Overlord is that comes in them. And I just sat there for, basically from December 20th through until probably January 2nd or 3rd, and just painted all of them. Painted, however many points of Necrons that was, plus whatever else was out at the time. I think I don't have a Void Dragon. There weren't any flayed ones, but I did convert Nacio Bone Reaper dude to look like a flayed one Overlord. But yeah, needless to say, I painted about 2,000 points in a little over 2 weeks at that point. Because didn't have anything better to do except for hang out with a super young puppy and play with my super young puppy and paint minis, because painting minis is pretty great. Okay. Where are we at with this guy? With our friendly Raven here. So this is Raven. Raven's gonna get slightly cooler skin tone than what I've been putting on the female characters. Not that men and women have different skin tones. He is all blue all the way across him, whereas both the like ladies that we've been painting tonight have been very warm colors. Like we have one that's yellow, one that's orange. So Fox is yellow, Fox is orange, Panther's yellow. Like they are very warm colors. We have very cool color here out of Raven. So what I'm going to do with Raven here is I'm going to incorporate a little bit of boldness into his skin tone. Not too much. Like there's a little tiny bit of Cantabric blue in pink flesh. As I go and find our highlight color here that I'm going to highlight all of these flesh tones in. Yes, they are all painted in Caucasian skin tones. It just happens to be what I have out right now. It's not. It is literally nothing more than that. Now I feel self-conscious about painting dudes white. At any rate, I mean, I do want to represent other people, but also one of them is a bug. Like one of them is a giant, I don't know, bug armored dude. At any rate, I'm gonna choose some a skin highlight that I'm gonna do with all these guys. I'm probably just gonna do light skin. So that seems reasonable. We'll just pick out little bits of skin. I'm not going to spend an enormous amount of time on this, but with the larger areas of skin on, because both of our spy women have their midriffs exposed, and then also Fox has like all of her skin, like all of her legs exposed. We are going to do a little bit better job of mixing, so we'll do a little bit of pink skin tone. And with Fox in particular, I'm only going to do this sort of mix on very high points of her flesh. So on the broad areas, we'll put it on the top of her calf here. We'll put it across the tops of her shoulders, just down the outside of her forearm there. I'm going to put a little bit across the bottom of her navel, and then we'll head the top, and then just... I know that the area underneath of her breast should actually be shadowed. Yeah, actually, now that I say that out loud to myself, it should be. What am I doing? What am I doing? I am going to put a little bit more of a highlight just at the top of her thigh here, too. Because I want a gradient that goes from top to bottom on the model. So this is a weird thing about any model. A gradient that goes top to bottom on the model eventually draws you closer to the face, so it puts more emphasis on the face. What I mean by a gradient is some sort of shift in color or shift in value that draws us closer and closer to the face. Because we're humans, we like looking at faces, and the faces on these are not particularly well sculpted, but I'll do my very best to do them justice. And then there are other also signifiers for like humans and things that we like to look at. One of those happens to be like navels and stuff like that. So let's just go up here at the top of the forehead. We're going to come in there. We are also going to do the area around her cheekbone, avoiding just beside her eye. We're also going to do the bridge of the nose. In this case, I'm also going to come in. I'm also not doing this in... How do we say this? Edge highlighting on feminine faces makes them look like dudes. Harsh highlighting, harsh lines, that sort of stuff makes feminine faces immediately look much more masculine. High amounts of contrast on female faces make them look masculine. Now, the trait that you were looking for there is up to you. If you want it to be a more masculine face, that's fine. You do you. That's cool. These guys are like... The story behind these guys is that they are spy hunters, right? Like, that is what they are doing in the game. They are hunting down spies. Also, not happy with how that light flash is laying down. It is very chalky. It is no es bueno. We're gonna let that dry fully, and then we might actually cover over that, because that is not coming out well. Surprises me a little bit, but we'll deal with it. It's normally pretty reliable paint. Um, sorry, harsh highlighting on female faces makes them look masculine. Angular highlights, not saying that women with angular faces aren't feminine. I'm saying that in the context of mini painting, traditionally female features, like we're also working on like we're working in shorthand, so they're minis, right? Like we don't have an infinite amount of space to adequately reflect like all of the features of the human face. But one surefire way to make it look like a dude's face instead of a lady face is to add huge amounts of contrast and to make the contrast very, very stark. Harsh lines, edge highlighting, all the things like that'll immediately kill feminine faces. It just it does. It really is hard on feminine features. Female faces are by far the find I find most challenging on models. And preserving female faces, given the skill set that I am comfortable in, I'm working on it. We all can work on it. I mean, I've seen plenty of beautiful examples of people who can do female faces. I'm trying to work there. That is one of my goals, is to get better at feminine faces, just because like so much of mini wargaming is dude faces. Like so much of it is dude faces, and it's always aggressive dude faces. Like it's snarly looking dudes, right? It is wargaming, or miniature wargaming. So if and when I can, get the opportunity to practice on something that isn't just snarly dude faces, you can bet I'm going to take it. And I'm going to try and make it the best I can. The other way to make to end up with, unfortunately, masculine faces unintentionally is deep shadows under the chin, and having too much highlight underneath of or having too much shadow underneath the cheekbone. Like having drawn in cheekbones or very angular cheekbones tends to make faces look much more masculine really, really quickly. Also, not highlighting the area underneath of the mouth or underneath of the nose. So underneath of your nose and above your lips, there's a little bit of like, many female faces have a little bit of a peak there to them. Some of them will be very flat. Like everybody's got a different face, right? But that is one of the ways that you can come across and really make something look a little bit softer, a little bit more feminine. Aside from, just doing a good job of finding the areas that are meant to be broadly highlighted, and do soft highlights. Like don't go crazy. Also, makeup application is important. Women wear makeup, they use it to contour their face softly. Because again, if you're ever, this is actually something that's sort of weird, and it messed up my YouTube for like, and by messed up I mean YouTube definitely thought that I had more of a makeup fetish than I actually do. Watch actual like makeup application videos if you're like me and struggling to maintain feminine features on mini faces. I've been finding greater success once I've actually started understanding how women apply makeup, because I'm not a lady and I haven't had a lifetime of like training myself to do makeup. And as a part of that, I didn't really understand fully how makeup was applied and all the rest of it, and what you're trying to achieve with makeup. So it's just one of those things that having a greater appreciation for how makeup works and how contouring faces and how using certain techniques around your eyes and stuff like that can really soften features while highlighting features. Like there is like a weird dichotomy that happens there that and it's all very much intentional. Like that is it is intended to be that way. Women spend an enormous amount of time making that happen. For some women, not every woman. Some women spend an enormous amount of time making that happen. And like, if you really want to appreciate it and you want to get it so that your miniature looks like it has a well contoured feminine face, go and watch a YouTube watch some YouTube makeup tutorials. It's not that weird. I said it messed up my YouTube for a little bit, and like in all honesty, it was just when you go onto Amazon and there's something that you need. Like for me, it was um, bathroom fans was probably the last one because we replaced the fan in our bathroom not that long ago. Uh, when I went and searched for bathroom fans, and then for like the next month, Amazon was like, "Hey, so I hear you're starting a bathroom fan collection. Can I interest you in these 6 models?" And I'm like, "No, I already bought the bathroom fan, man. Like, I don't need 6 more." And it's like, okay, but if you ever need to start a collection, I've just made sure that I remember that for the rest of the time. And it's like, okay, thanks, YouTube. Thumbs up, buddy. At any rate, all right. There's Fox. Just being Fox. I am. Let's see. What are we gonna do? Let's take a short break. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take a little bit of a break here. We will come back. We will finish up the skin on Panther. Then we will get both Panther and Fox's clothing done. I'm pretty close to being done with Raven here. He looks pretty cool. That's where Raven's at. We got a little bit of work to do as far as his glowy eyes and finishing up his face, just making sure he's got enough contrast so that we can really see his lips there. But otherwise, yeah, we're pretty good there. We got a little bit of work to do still on Mantis. Mantis, I'm also going to paint his blades a little bit so that he's got some more interest to him than just the little glowy bits that we're going to give him. So we'll finish this stuff up, though. We got a little bit more work to do on Mantis. We got a little bit more work to do on Raven. The most work that we still got to do is we want to do some work here on Panther, on Panther and on Fox. So we'll take care of that. I'll be gone for a couple minutes here, but we'll be back. I promise. We will be back. We're always back. Peace. We're back. We are back. All right. Let's see. What do we want to do? Let's work on. Get a little bit more definition on Raven here. Nope. Let's actually go to the correct one. Let's get a little bit more definition on Raven's face here. Yeah, there we go. So we're just going to get some simple stuff done here with his face. I'm going to use scale color light skin. So he's got a base color of just pink flesh, if I remember correctly. Pink skin. What is it actually called? Pink flesh, but scale color. So, good. So, pretty standard highlight on him. So we're just going to hit tops of the cheekbones, the end of the nose, lip, chin. Again, I'm not being overly concerned with these guys. These are just, they're just board game miniatures, so. I'm not going to go crazy with these guys. But again, a couple of thin layers. Just getting stuff so that there's a little bit more contrast on these areas so they do stand out. I am going to come in with that cool skin tone that we had before. I'm just going to put some extra contrast down into the undersides of his cheeks here, so just into the sallow part of his cheeks, the edges of his eye sockets, just underneath of his eye, just the area between his lower lid of his eye and his cheek. And this is pretty thin. I know I don't have the palette cam on tonight. I apologize. Fun story. My Pixel 4, which is what I normally use to run the palette cam, the back plastic on it is delaminating right now, which is a combination of running it with the battery on and charger for the stream, and it just being old. It's, you know, whatever. It was like a launch, like I got it day one when it was available, so it's just about hit its 2 years. I know that is like not a glowing review for any piece of electronics when it hits its like exactly its 2-year anniversary and is like, and done now. You finished paying me off, obsolete and dead. So not a glowing review for it or anything, but Whatever. It served me well. I don't keep a case on it. I treat it badly. Yada, yada, yada. All of those things combine to make it so that it is maybe prematurely dying or dying right on time, depending on who you are. In my case, I tend to think that any piece of electronics that hits the end of its 2-year life cycle, or any piece of electronics that manages to make it to 2 years, to me, has pretty much done its job. I know that I should demand more for my electronics, but, like, I don't. Alright. Let's get them up closer to the camera here. Let's see if we can get them in focus for you. So you can see, needs a little bit more of a highlight just across the top lip, so we'll bring that up a little bit. Again, I'm really only using like a couple of colors here because these are just meant to be tabletop standard. Like these are not display pieces by any means. I'm just trying to get something that we can. I hate playing. I said this before. Board games where I'm just playing with gray plastic make me sad. So this is a board game. I've had it for years now, and I was like, man, it makes me sad that this is not in any way painted. Maybe I'll feel less sad about it if it has some paint on it, as opposed to none paint on it. So we're just getting some paint on these guys. Let's... I'm going to switch over to Panther now. And I'm very much going with, like, Power Rangers style paint jobs on these guys, so they're going to get bold paint jobs. So we're going to come in with some black and get this nice big leather belt. We're going to get this up in black. I feel like it needs to be black. It's going to look like a bumblebee, basically, but that's fine. I like the idea of that. Big blocks of contrast like that, so why not? Is it believable? No. Would any spy hunter actually dress like this? No. But I assume that she is, this is a cyberpunk future that she lives in, right? So it's all about style over substance, right? I don't know how many people... I've been a long time fan of cyberpunk as a genre, cyberpunk fiction, like all the way back, like one of the first books that I actually, well, not one of the first, but like very early in my reading career, I read Neuromancer, which is the William Gibson novel, famous first line. Stepped outside into world. Sky, the color of a dead TV channel. Which is a hilarious line now that I think about it, because a dead TV channel doesn't exist any longer. Like, it just... The day that William Gibson was describing at the start of that novel. It changed a couple times now in my life. Like, even in my lifetime, it has changed a couple times, because dead channels when I was a kid meant that they were static channels, right? Like, when the broadcast day was done, if they didn't have the broadcast day is now over, sign that they used to put up, because I am that old. There used to just be at the end of the broadcast day at whatever, for the local channels, for me, it was at, I think it was 1 a.m. When I was a small child. And then it probably went to 3 or 4 before they went to 24-hour broadcasts. But, when it was, before it was 24-hour broadcasts, it was at the end of the broadcast day, the channel went dead and the channel went to just static, because it was just, like, it was an actual broadcast signal from a local channel. Like, it was made and produced locally. There was no 24 hours of programming. So when the channel died at the end of the day, it went to static. And it went to analog static, which means it was like a combination of white and black dots, essentially. It was black ants versus white ants. Sometime in the 90s, that changed over to being dead channels were blue. That might still be what cable dead channels are. I have no idea what cable dead channels look like because I haven't had cable in 2 decades. Like, I've never paid for cable as an adult. I haven't been an adult for 2 decades, but we're getting close to that measure here in a concerningly short period of time. At any rate, but yeah, it's just sort of weird that in my lifetime, that line has changed meaning. So, like, the idea that William Gibson was trying to get across when he wrote that line is that, you know, the sky was it was gray. It was the color of static, right? It wasn't like a blue sunny sky, but like at some point in time, you know, dead channels actually became like bright blue only channels. I don't even know what they are anymore. Like, I don't think there is such thing as a channel that is off the air. So there's not really a color called dead channel anymore. Regardless, neither here nor there. Just a weird tangent. But I've been into Cyberpunk for a long time. I was really excited when The Matrix was coming out because it was the first time really as an adult that I got to see. Well, I let's see, it was 1999, so I was not quite an adult, but I was a teenager, I guess. But The Matrix was really my first exposure to cyberpunk fiction, other than like watching old 80s movies. Like, well, I guess Johnny Mnemonic came out in the 90s, but now I'm just going and proving myself to be a liar. The Matrix really excited me, and the aesthetic of The Matrix isn't purely cyberpunk, but it is very much the if not the aesthetic of cyberpunk. It was an embodiment of the ideal of cyberpunk, because cyberpunk's thing was always, it was about style over substance. Like, it wasn't about what you did, it was about whether or not you looked cool while you were doing it. Like, and that comes up a lot more in, actually, if anybody's interested, and this well might be poisoned by now, but I will say it out loud anyway. Cyberpunk 2020, Cyberpunk Red, Cyberpunk, trying to forget what the middle version of that was between Red and 2020. There was one in between, where there was, sorry, it was before 2020. It was 2013. Those games, and their author, their creator, Mike Pondsmith, has an excellent sense of sort of the ideals of what cyberpunk is. And as much as Cyberpunk 2077 did not live up to those things, I was disappointed by Cyberpunk 2077. Unfortunately, there was a lot of promises that were made that were probably never going to be kept by CD Projekt Red, but they hyped, and that's their bad. But Pondsmith, whose world Cyberpunk 2077 is based off of, like, that's why we have people like Johnny Silverhand and Samurai and the entirety of Night City and all the rest of it. Pondsmith's fiction surrounding his universe, his cyberpunk universe, is absolutely the embodiment of style over substance. It's nobody cares who you are until you are somebody. It is, I don't know, it's a very different aesthetic than Cyberpunk 2077 turned into, or turned out to be, I guess. It always was that. Never wasn't that. At any rate. I really appreciate what Mike Pondsmith did with Cyberpunk. I wish that more people were exposed to Mike Pondsmith's vision of the cyberpunk future, as opposed to what Cyberpunk 2077 sort of delivered to us. Not saying that Cyberpunk 2077 was worthless, or that it wasn't a good game, or that it doesn't have the possibility of being better than what it is right now. Just at this point in time, and the product that was released wasn't a great time. At any rate, that's why I think these characters are also more cyberpunk than they are why I'm fine with painting them very much in Power Rangers bright primaries as opposed to finding more subtle paint jobs to do on these guys. I'm highlighting the yellow. I'm going to give it a little bit of highlight here in some specific places just because it needs it. Otherwise, even though it is like eye-bitingly bright yellow, it does actually need some highlights in some places. So we're going in. This is light skin. So this is actually the same highlight we were using on our skin tones. I'm just thinning it a little bit on the wet palette and then applying it to the model in a variety of places just to try and bring some starker highlights in certain areas where I feel like it could be pushed a little bit. I might knock this back a little bit. The color that's on here is just Soul Yellow that is thinly applied over top of some black, straight up black. I just built it up in a couple of layers with the airbrush. Looks like she's got some kunai or something in her hands here, just some blades, so we'll give those same time as we do Mantis's blades, we'll do her blades, and we'll get those all done together here. We got about an hour left, so where can we make some big differences here? When we start getting into shorter and shorter time periods, I'm going to start looking for some of the low-hanging fruit that we can take care of. Not saying that I'll never revisit these models, but again, board game models, so I'm here to do sort of a decent job of them. We're not going to get crazy, go nuts here. We're just going to give it little bits. Just little bits of love here and there where we need it to really sell some of the materials and stuff. Really sell our contrast. We're going to do some of the shortcutty stuff. That'll help. Sell our little model here as being having lots of contrast without having to do a huge amount of blending and effort and stuff. So, and because she's in like sort of a cyberpunky future, I've decided, literally no one else's consent or feelings attached to it. I mean, you can argue with me in chat if you want. I am up for an argument about whether these guys are sci-fi or cyberpunk. I will have that fight with you. If you want to have that fight with me, go for it. You can also put it in the comments. This will be up on our YouTube afterwards. If you want to catch these live, I stream normally with my buddy Adam, beach_vacation_Mando. You can follow me on Instagram. I am choiceminis on Insta. Normally we stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays together. I went live tonight because just painting anyway. So I was like, hey, why not be live? That way we can all do this together. So I was painting black before. Let's get her hair. I'm just going to quickly put her hair to black because I feel like that is a stupid idea, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm kind of running out of time here and I want to get it done. So I'm going to give her some black. We'll come back in. We'll highlight it up using some brown colors, and that will it'll get us closer to her name, which her name is Panther, so we're going to give her some panthery colors. But again, because we are going for sort of a cyberpunk aesthetic, I am happy to leave these guys very much in the like primary colors regions of things, even though we're not all of them in primary colors. As a matter of fact, 2 of the ones that we're painting tonight are in secondary colors, but that's fine. That's fine. I'm running out of time. Gotta go fast and not mess it up too badly. Let's see, I was in the middle of plugging myself. You can find more about me on our website, choiceminis.ca. If you want to support the stream, the best thing you could possibly do, like, subscribe, and follow. Tell your friends that I exist. If you're having a good time, if you're having a bad time, lie to them and tell them you had a good time and send them here too. And you guys really should go and follow Adam. Adam's Beach Vacation Mando on Twitter. You should also go follow Sean, one of our YouTube viewers. He's not on tonight. You want to go and follow him. They are just naked apes on Instagram. At least I believe that's what it is. It's naked apes. Naked_apes on Instagram. That is where both their like combined Horses for Miniatures, both Adam and Sean post there. So that is where you can find their stuff. Let's move on to Fox. So I want to do a couple of things with Fox. I want to get her shorts down to... How do I want to do this? I'm going to put her crop top and shorts and her rollerblades here. They're all going to go to black. And I know that I'm going to lose out a lot of the orange that's on her. And I get that. But you know what? I'm going to leave her crop top being... Yeah, we'll leave the crop top being orange. How about that? That'll at least give us sort of an in-between. And yes, I realize this model is messily prepared, and I'm not doing a great job of painting it right now, because I'm trying to rush through this. Not because I don't want to be on stream anymore. I do, actually. But I also promised myself that I would get all 4 of these minis done. Like, the challenge to myself, and the reason why I went live, is I was like, okay, well, if I'm live, I'm going to have approximately 3 hours where I'm motivated to just do this. Whereas, if I weren't live right now, if I was doing this in my own time, I would still be futzing around with cleaning the models. But this afternoon at like 2, I was like, all right, I'm going to go live tonight. And I'm going to go live with these dudes. And I'm going to get all 4 of them done on stream. And so, that being said to myself, that being the challenge I presented myself with, I do want to do that. Like, whether or not they are done, or whether it is just done enough that if it was to go to the tabletop, I would feel okay about it. Debatable which one of those is going to happen. Probably going to be the done enough that if it went to the tabletop, I would be okay with it, as opposed to done. But, you know, such is life. Such is life. Sometimes it's okay to just make deals with yourself. Say like, no, you know what? I'm cool with however much effort I can put in this amount of time. That's really what I'm going to do with these guys. Let's get these. I'm also going to make the wheels. You know what? We'll do something fun with the wheels. That's how we will finish off these rollerblades in a better way. We will do something fun to the wheels. I'll make them turquoise or something. Let's get the belt to black. The reason why I hesitated when I said, let's put some black on this model, is because black and orange has the unfortunate effect in my mind of only ever looking like a pumpkin. Like, it looks like a grade schooler's jack-o'-lantern every time. And I can't shake it, which is why I was like, well, why don't I put it all to black? And then I was like, no, I don't like that idea either. The fun / weird thing about all these models is if you look at them, like, I've got artwork in front of me for all of them that I'm sort of following, but not really. All of their artwork has them in like orange and yellow and purple and whatnot. And I'll show you guys here in a second, so that I'm not just like talking and you're like, yeah, cool, why are you telling us this? All of the artwork for all of these dudes. So here's Panthers. Panther isn't yellow in this. Panther just has yellow background to it, right? Like, she's not in a yellow jumpsuit. Nothing about her is yellow other than the like glow of her eyes and the lighting around her. All of them are that way. They're all black with like yellow light around them or whatever color light around them. Mantis is green light around them. Like, none of them are actually the colors I'm painting them, but like, I can't paint them all. That's not true. I could paint them all with black and just make the ambient light whatever high saturation version of the lighting around them, the individual colors. I could absolutely do that, but I cannot do that in 3 hours. I don't think anybody can get that done in 3 hours convincingly, with it just being everything around them being OSL and them wearing a variety of black clothing and have that read well. You know what? That's not true. I have no doubt that there is somebody out there who could do it, and if you are the person who can do it, like, that is amazing. I am absolutely in awe of you. I am not the painter who can do that. I can get these guys to a cool tabletop standard in about 3 hours. Is where we're going. We are going to cool tabletop standard town. We are gonna have some cool highlights on them. We will have all of our base coats done. We will pick out individual items that we think are neato and are going to get a little bit more love than, say, the rest of the model. Part of what's bothering me about our rollerblades is I can't read well what the mold was going for and some of the shapes. Like, a lot of it is just there's detail missing, or I didn't do a good enough job of cleaning detail, so I don't really know what's going on there, which is sad because want to do a decent job of that part of the sculpt, but it just doesn't read particularly easily, and so I'm gonna make it worse by just flattening it all entirely with black. I'm gonna make it basically impossible to read. I mean, they are rollerblades, so I guess I could sort of get away with it by, like, I don't know, dry brushing them maybe. See, now I'm in, like, panic, how fast can I get these done mode, which is not a great place for me to be as a painter. Typically, when I panic, I make things 1,000 times worse, so stay tuned for me making this 1,000 times worse. Or maybe not. You never know. At any rate, this is my challenge to myself, is to get these 4 models to a decent tabletop standard in 3 hours. Meaning, what, 45 minutes a model or so? Which I think we're going to be pretty close on. We will get there. While I'm waiting for those to dry again, I'm going to deal with Fox's hair here. So, this is just Vallejo acrylic wash rust or deep rust, one or the other. Both of them work. They're both reddy brown washes because she has red hair and she is supposedly, like, her name is Fox. So I'm gonna go with making her hair fox colored. And yep, part of that is washes because, again, I'm trying to get this done relatively quickly. So we will drop some of this rust wash into her hair. And yes, that is going to make her hair very reddy, and we will come back and fix that up with sort of a neutral orange white. Sorry, sort of a neutral warm white is how we're going to finish off her hair so that she has reasonably colored hair. I mean, again, this is... If we're going with Cyberpunk aesthetic, I could literally have made her hair bright red, like fire engine red, and in my head, in the, like, style of Cyberpunk, we could totally get away with that. I think that is a perfectly reasonable color to expect in a Cyberpunk setting. But let's clean up this belt. It's bothering me how bad that is. So I just swapped over. I went from my dyeing number 2 to my number 1. I'm using Winsor & Newton brushes all the way through. Just no particular reason. I like Winsor & Newton. There are plenty of other good brush company out there. The big thing is you want to stick to Kolinsky Sable brushes when you're trying to do detail work like this, especially if you're trying to do detail work rapidly. You need a brush that you can rely. The brush or the bristles aren't going to all spread out on you. You're not going to get... You want to know where the tip of your brush is, where the flat of your brush is, so I tend to use the same brushes over and over and over again, or the same style of brush over and over and over and over again, because you know, as a painter, you sort of get used to where the tip and stuff is, and being able to accurately use brushes, having good brush control is sort of the first real requirement to be a decent miniature painter, and it is the thing that requires it is the first chunk of your practice. Like whether you're not yours, no matter what you aspire to do as a painter, if you can't control where the tip of your brush is and where the paint is going onto your model, it's going to be real hard to improve. So, you know, if there's one thing that I can tell you to do, paint lots, stick to the same brush. Don't flip back and forth. If you buy decent brushes, like if you buy Klinsky Sable brushes, if you buy Winsor & Newton, or really any Raphael, any of those brushes. I say this as I splotch paint all over the place and have to go clean it up here in a second. If you buy a decent brush, a Klinsky Sable brush, and you take care of it, you wash it out, you use brush soap on it, blah, 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 you will improve faster. You have to put in the effort still, but you will improve. I promise. If you use the same brush over and over again, and you are working to improve your painting technique, you will improve faster if you are using the same brush over and over again, whether it is a good brush or a bad brush, and whether that brush is made out of Klinsky Sable or synthetic brushes or just a sable brush or whatever it is, right? Like if you're using the same brushes over and over and over again, you will get used to you will be able to predict where the ends of your brush are and therefore become better at painting using that brush. If you're always hopping back and forth, if you have 1,000 choices with brushes or you use brushes too long to the point where the tips are fraying and you never wash it, you don't take care of it in any way, and you just keep battering the same old brush, it doesn't matter how much you practice, that brush is going to hold you back, and you're not learning how to manage your brush at that point in time. You are learning how to deal with a crappy tool. It's not learning to use the tool, that is learning to manage a crap version of the tool, and it will forever more haunt you. It's not going to get any better. It's not going to make you a better painter. If you want to buy synthetic brushes, because that is what you have available to you, more power to you. Use the synthetic brush, but know that you are going to need to throw it out faster. Just that is the nature of synthetic brushes. They die faster than good quality sable brushes if you don't take care if you don't take care of your sable brush, it will also die quickly. Take care of your brushes, buy brush soap, use brush soap. Rant over temporarily. I've decided I'm also going to paint most of this holster in black as well. I'm going to come back and paint in the metallic parts here in a minute, but for right now, this holster is also going to come to the dark side. I don't want too many more colors on this model. We're already, as we approach time, we've got 50 minutes left to get metallics across all of this stuff, and I still wanted to do something fun with our rollerblade wheels. So get one more shot of black across our rollerblades here. Swap back to my number 2 real quick. Again, I'm just base coating these in black because, well, I don't. There's a lot of detail that was probably in the master of these molds that just didn't survive the molding process to whatever version of whatever series this is off of those molds. They're looking a little melty, so I know I could do something to pick that up with just, you know, some more technique and time. But I don't have technique and time tonight. Tonight I am trying to get 4 models done in 3 hours. Including a little 10-minute break so I could pet my dogs a whole bunch. Alright. I'm not getting as strong a contrast on that orange hair as I normally do, so what we're going to do, we've got some birch here. This is scale color birch. It's just what I'm going to throw some of this onto the palette. The orange that is on the model right now is Mars Orange, so I'm going to take that and a little bit of Mars Orange, and we're going to highlight the hair, and then we'll probably wash it down one more time and see if we can't get a little bit more contrast between her clothing and that hair. The her. If I don't find that I'm getting enough contrast that way, the next step for all of this is I'll find an actual brown and we'll do a little bit of brown glazing onto the clothing. We'll get that. We'll change the tone there a little bit. So with hair, I'm going to give a little bit of a volume first, and then we'll come back and hit individual strands afterwards. So just right across the top, we'll give a little bit there. And then we'll actually, for the most part, we're going to highlight this hair where we want it to be shiniest or where we think it is thinnest. So the areas where we think it is shiniest, there's a crown or a ring that is going to crown her head. So not necessarily the top of her head, but there's going to be a ring that would reflect into your eyes if you were looking at her straight on. And then where hair thins out. So at the ends of her little bits here. And then also, we talked about this. Actually, I got an entire VOD about this. If you want to go and see how I highlight hair better than what I'm going to do tonight, because tonight I'm going to do lazy, need to get this done sort of job. We got the blonde hair video, our blonde horse. So if you want to go and check that out, you can just go back into the VODs, or you can go to my YouTube channel. I'm just YouTube on Choice Minis on YouTube. You can go on there. You can see we did blonde hair. This week on Thursday, we're going to be working on gray hair because dwarves like gray hair. Dwarves have gray hair. Dwarves are graybeards. We're going to be doing graybeards. Listen, we've got some graybeards to paint this week, so know that is going to happen, and that I would love you to be there. We do it on Thursday. You can join Adam and I Thursday at 6:00 p.m. Mountain Time. That is 5:00 Pacific Time. That is 8:00. Yeah, it's 8:00 in Eastern Time. And if you're in the EU, it is some other time. I don't know what that is in Greenwich Mean Time. You can always go onto the schedule on our Twitch, or just twitch.tv/choiceminis with a Z. You can also hit up, and that'll take you to the schedule. If you want to check out more about what we're doing, you can always go to our website, choiceminis.ca. There's much more stuff on there about what we're doing with some of our other projects. All right, let's get even more of this birch into the orange as we try and get highlights built into this hair, just to give us a little bit of separation between the hair itself and... So there are two places where hair reflects, either where it is picking up highlights because of its light reflecting off of it, or where it is under tension. Well, there's three places, or where it is loosely gathered. Those are the three places where hair gathers highlights. We talk about this, as I said, we talk about this more in the blonde hair video. We'll talk about it more on Wednesday as we talk about how to do gray beards. Because, again, on Thursdays, we are working on our Blood Bowl teams. I have the new Helmguard Giants. They are my Dwarf Giants team. Dwarf Giants Blood Bowl team, that is. They are... Well, we did some blonde hair on them last time we talked about them. We had a little bit of black armor that we did on our orcs last Thursday. On Tuesdays, we stream Space Marines because, heck, you want to know how to get internet famous? Be good at Marines, I guess. I don't know. Listen, don't ask me about how to get internet famous. I ain't internet famous. I'm internet hopeful. Internet adjacent, internet trying. Listen, we're trying here, boys. We are trying here, ladies and gentlemen. I really need to get a new lens on this thing. It is bothering me how much of the time we spend out of focus. I'm sure it bothers you guys too. That is totally fair. I do not blame you at all. So again, places where hair is under highlights, it is highlight, or where we put highlights on hair. We put highlights on hair where it is under tension. So along the very peak of her part there, we are going to put it in a rim around her head where it would naturally reflect back into the eye of the viewer. from that angle. And we're just arbitrarily setting that angle on this one because I am running out of time. And it also is, so on these longer braids, the areas where it catches the light, we're going to give it a little bit of highlight just so that we can get some differentiation in the strands. Normally I would spend way more time on this, but again, we's running out of time. Right now, so what we're doing is we got Mars Orange and then a little bit of Rust Wash over top of it, and then we're just coming in right now with some Scale Color Birch. Sorry, that is also Scale Color Mars Orange. Just giving a little bit of a wash around there so that we got some highlights on that. I also noticed that she's wearing an eye patch that I completely and totally like just sort of forgot was on there. Her eye patch in the artwork is glowing bright blue, so let's give her we're not actually going to give her a bright blue eye patch. We are going to give her a nice teal-y looking eye patch. We will modulate that in a second here. So let's get that down. Let's also get the teal onto her skates. I'm going to put it on the wheels on her skates as well. So that is going to be, this is going to take a couple of coats just because that orange is orange as orange. So orange and teal, this very much feels like 2010's movie poster. If you don't know what I mean, go and look at all of the movie posters from the 2010s. Heck, it starts all the way back in like the new series of, and by new series I mean like episode 1, 2, 3 of Star Wars. Everything starts being blue and orange right around the early 2000s and keeps being that way to today. It's just close it up with some faces and blue and orange colors on movie poster. And by blue and orange I mean teal and fluorescent orange, because that is secondary complementary colors. And it conveys a sense of futurism, and at some point in time we just decided that everything should be that, because that's how we draw movie posters, because once one thing is successful, everybody runs out of ideas immediately afterwards for like a decade, and in this case it's been nearly 2 decades. Seriously, movie posters used to be so cool, and now they are so incredibly lame. If there is anything that I would be able to most quickly be able to disappoint childhood Steve with, it would be that movie posters were so much lamer when you were an adult man. Keep having that The Mummy Returns poster on your wall. Nobody else will like that movie but you. And also, movie posters will become significantly lamer as you get older. Okay. Not going to get to do a whole lot with this aqua paint. So this is, sorry, I should actually say what this is. This isn't actually aqua. This is Caribbean blue from Scale Color. And yes, I am being very, very messy about this. I am just sort of slapping it at the model because in the headcanon artwork, whatever, the thing that I wanted to emulate here is this would be glowy aquamarine, but I am down to less than 40 minutes. And I could probably get it most of the way there, but I want to make sure that I've got time. I've got glows to do on this guy. I've got metals to do on all of these guys. So all of these guys have metal on them somewhere that I need to catch up with. We have glows on almost all these guys to do, so we will see whether we can get to where the aqua glow on skates and on her little eyepiece thing here. At the very least, we will get the eyepiece to being a nice solid aquamarine color. We will have to leave it here for a second while we start getting. Let's get our metals done. Let's take that one off the list. So I'm going to come in with let's go with scale metal color. Vallejo metal color. I'm going in with gunmetal, which happens to be one of the darker ones. We're going to put it on pretty neat. And by neat, I mean I'm not going to add anything to it. Like, I'm not going to adulterate it with anything right now. We are probably going to use some thin down scale color black to modulate, and we'll probably add in a little bit, probably aluminum just on the edges and stuff, just to, again, it sort of depends how much time we have to get all this stuff done, but I'm going to paint the grip of her weapon. Even though it is probably also black, I just wanted to give it some contrast in comparison to the black holster that she's got on. Let's get a bunch of this off the brush and actually paint on stream as opposed to just painting wherever I feel like it. Let's get her belt buckle. That definitely looks like it's made out of metal. That would be the time where it's like, hey, man, why aren't you using your number 2 or your number 1? The answer is, I'm an idiot. So I'm using my number 2 on things that probably shouldn't be. Let's tackle tiny details with a number 2 that is dying. And with the world's flowiest paint. Let's get Cheetah's knife blades. I'm certain there is a name for what these weapons are actually supposed to be, but they're kind of like kunai. They're not. They're the wrong shape. Not. They're. They look like cat claws. If cat claws were knives. I don't know how to describe that better. I'm sure there is a way. I'm just starting to get tired here. There's been a long day of modeling and cooking actually today, so as weird as that sounds, and cleaning. Cooking, cleaning, modeling. Okay. Those look okay. Wash the brush out real quick, and then I'll pick up some more of this. So, again, we're using Vallejo Metal Color gunmetal for all this stuff. We're just using its neat out of the pot, so I'm not super worried. It's going to cover really well one way or another. That just happens to be how Vallejo Metal Color is. And since we're doing metallics right now, I am going to go through and finish metallics. Just get it started. We will go all the way to the end with these guys. So, not saying that we're done the models when we're done the metallics, but we are going to finish the metallics all in one stripe, and then I'll go and wash out the rinsing cup because the mica dust that is in Vallejo Metal Color is incredibly fine and stays in suspension in my rinse water forever. You know, you can kind of get away with it with pretty metallics. You can sort of get away with not having to rinse out your water if you leave it to settle for, you know, a good 10-15 minutes. You don't normally have to really worry too much about getting metal flake in your paint or mica dust in your paint, but the mica dust that is in this is so finely ground. It stays in suspension forever. So, then forevermore. Until I dump that water out. Every time I go to get paint from it from now until I dump it out and rinse it fairly thoroughly. Every time it's just going to be full of mica dust, and it will make whatever I paint, no matter what I touch with it, it will try and turn it into a metallic color because that mica dust will just come into ye olde paint. So that'll just be, to avoid that, we will get our metallics done. Then we will then we'll go and dump the rinse cup out. The other thing is I don't use metallics on the wet palette. So as much as I am using a wet palette for everything else, so for all of my scale color stuff is all on the wet palette, all the rest of it. the wet palette is really superfluous when it comes to good metallics. So metallics don't necessarily need the wet palette to do their thing. As a matter of fact, it's pretty detrimental to them. They tend to split off really quickly. Vallejo Metal Color does for me, or Vallejo Metal Color for me at very least, does tend to stay fairly well mixed if I just keep it in a regular palette. If I put it in the wet palette, it'll almost immediately split. Like there is too much that goes into the medium because the medium is very, very thin in consistency and very, very flowy. It absorbs a lot of water really quickly, and when it starts to absorb that water, it basically becomes useless. So all the mica falls out of suspension and it becomes no longer metallics. It's just a blobby puddle of bad. Okay. Let's get one more layer on all of these guys for the metallics. Just making sure that we've got good coverage on this, even though I could probably get away with one coat on all these. I'm not expecting like miracles or anything. This is pretty much how these are going to look one way or another, but we'll just make sure we got coverage, because as much as I am trying to get these guys all done tonight, we want them to look nice-ish, better than... Listen, they already look much better than what they did before we started tonight, so let's not kid ourselves. We're not doing Da Vinci's work here, but we are getting these to a decent tabletop standard. So I just want to make sure that I am putting enough effort that we are going to get there. The other thing that I might do with these, because these are meant to be tabletop minis, like these are part of a game, they're board game minis, I am probably going to hit these with a varnish. And the step that I found worked really, really well for me on my Necrons, because I do have a whole bunch of Necrons that are painted surprisingly, shockingly, they are painted with Vallejo Metal colors. Painting a good gloss varnish on all of the model works really well for protecting it from greasy gamer fingers, you know, Dorito hands and whatnot. It is not great for metal colors. It doesn't do a very good job of like even covering over gloss varnish again with something like AKA Ultra Matte. Doesn't do a very good service to either the AKA Ultra Matte or to the gloss finish below it. It tends to get cloudy, I find. Even being very careful with it, it tends to get cloudy. But I have found, so Vallejo makes a product called Vallejo Metal Varnish, which they sell alongside the Vallejo Metal Colors stuff. It is a very glossy varnish, but it doesn't seem to interact with AK Interactive's Ultramatte afterwards. So if you, so you can actually, in combination, use those two, and it tends to work out to where you still get metallic shine on metallic bits with the metal gloss, and you also get really nice, rather you get acceptable. You get acceptable shine out of the metal bits and really nice matte on your matte surfaces. So that's just a little tip from me to you. Let's get the glow down on matte test. Well, I can't. Okay, let's get the black done. So let's do a little bit of shading on these metal bits for everybody. So I'm not going to go crazy with any of these. I'm not going to do like a full TMM treatment just because I'm down to 28 minutes here. So what we are going to do, though, is I'm going to take some scale color black, and I'm just going to thin it out on the wet palette. And the parts that I need to be differentiated one from the other. So like on this holster, on this weapon, I want a nice definitive line between the hammer and her holster. I want a nice definitive line there. Now, this is very thin, so it's not going to necessarily show up that well as being... it's not going to show up particularly well as being like a what am I trying to say here? It's not going to show up particularly well as a noticeable black line on the metal, because we're already using very dark metal. What I am mostly doing with this right now is I am adding an absolute dead zone of shine. Because these are ultra matte paints, like because I'm using scale 75 paints, they are extremely matte. So I'm basically zeroing out the shine in those areas. So even though it's not darkening it a whole lot, I am modulating the shine on those areas mostly. That is what I'm attempting to do with these. And that will give me the sense of separation between elements of the model as much as I'm going to get tonight. Again, if I was doing this properly, like if I was doing these as display pieces or something like that, yeah, we would take the time, we would paint this all in, we would modulate highlights and shadows, we would add volumetric highlights to the whole thing, blah, blah, blah. Like, yes, I know that that is the proper way. That is not what we are doing tonight. Tonight we are trying to get 4 models painted in 3 hours to an acceptable tabletop standard. Acceptable tabletop standard. That is, I'm going to keep reminding myself of that, because every time I look at something, I'm like, I should fix that. I should fix that. And you know what? I just don't have time. We're going to go for the points of high payoffs, and the rest of it will just have to be what it is. Okay. Now remember, we do have minor amounts of mica dust inside of our brushes here because we've been painting these scale color the Vallejo metal color across a lot of the model, so it is just in our rinse water and everywhere else. So we're not going to get absolutely matte out of this stuff anyway, but we're just trying to add separation between elements of the model with this black. We're basically black lining with a very thin black that we're hoping will run into some of the shadows. And also the matte medium, like the medium that scale color uses, is so matte, it will also help to add some differentiation to bits of the model. Really what we're waiting for. That's what we're hoping for with this stuff. We're not going to get huge shifts in color just because we're using a black over a very dark metal to start with. That is intentional in a sort of a speedy scenario like what we're doing tonight. We want to take these shortcuts a little bit, so we are going to shortcut our way through some of this metal stuff just by using we're using this darker metal, and then we're going to really quickly edge highlight when we're close. When we're nearly done, we're going to edge highlight with like white aluminum, and that'll help to give us some more volume. On Mantis, I'm going to take a few more minutes to get this stuff done, just because this is Mantis's big feature, right? Is these giant Mantis blades and his glowy eyes. So knowing those things, let's slow down for a second. Let's do a proper job here. So I'm going to choose. I'm going to pay more attention when I'm loading up my brush so that I don't end up with globs of stuff on it. I want this area of the blade on the outside to be light, so I'm going to add my shadows here. I'm just going to thinly sweep this. I'm going to drop bigger pools into those drops. Then on the inside of that one, I'm going to do just the opposite side of the blade. This is a very like standard, if you've ever seen, most of the how to paint a power weapon tutorials on YouTube. Exactly this. This is exactly what they're going to teach you to do. They're going to say, choose the spot for the highlight on the opposite side of the blade. Add your shadows using a dark color, multiple thin layers, and you will eventually achieve shadow. And you know what? There's a reason why there is 1,000 of that tutorial. It's because it is a quick and relatively easy way to do something cool with a weapon that doesn't require a huge amount of technique, but it kind of pays for itself in showing off the model. So you know what? Why reinvent the wheel? We're going to get this done in time, hopefully. So I don't have a huge amount of time to dedicate. What I would normally do, to be honest with you, is this probably would have been non-metallic metal, and we would have spent like 3 hours just doing this guy's, like doing Mantis's blades, because these are the feature of this model. Like, this is the cool part of this model. So That being said, I'm not going to have the time to do that on Mantis, because, I don't know, I made myself a stupid challenge, and now I'm sticking to it, okay? But we're going to just continue moving around the model fairly quickly. These are nice thin layers, so of course I can move around quickly, knowing that each part of the model is going to be dry by the time I get back to it, as long as I'm continuing to maintain the order that I'm going in. So as long as I keep doing this in the same way every time, probably by the time I get back, unless I get sloppy about it, it's going to be dry. Every time I touch something, I am going for a smaller and smaller surface. So every layer that I complete, I go for a smaller layer the next time. If you needed any evidence how dry it is in my room right now, the brush lasted less than a minute from being in the pot to being completely dried out. So even though I was dipping it in the dry or in the wet palette. So there you go. You guys can see there's a little bit of modulation to his mantis blades there. How are we doing for time? We got 20 minutes. We got 20 minutes. Do we go for highlighting metal? Or do we go for... No, let's highlight metal. Forget it. I answered my own question. Let's highlight some metal. Okay. White aluminum. Hey, man. I thought you went to bed. Oh. Hey, the walking slim. I hope you're feeling all right, buddy. Okay. So in the palette, well, not like my wet palette, the palette beside it, I had a little bit of I had some leftover gunmetal, Vallejo metal gunmetal. I've mixed that now with a little bit of white aluminum. Like 1 drop of white aluminum to whatever was left in the palette of the other one. And again, this isn't going to be perfect. I have no illusions to that. We are going way too fast for this to be perfect. But we are just going to, in the areas that we did not paint with black paint, we are just going to come in with our aluminum. We'll drop it down. It doesn't look great. As a matter of fact, it's sticking out pretty badly. But that's fine. That's fine. Again, tabletop standard. If I was looking for better than that, we wouldn't be trying to paint 4 minis in 3 hours. And again, I'm just going to keep highlighting. Again, this stuff covers so incredibly well. And by this stuff, I mean like Vallejo metal color covers so incredibly well that even thin down, they immediately cover. They cover so well. I mean, I love them for that. It's a little disappointing. Like if this was, say, Citadel or even Scale Colors metals, I would get like at least 2 layers before I get full coverage. This stuff immediately, like 100% coverage. Like there is no 2 ways about it. It is just like, nope, I've covered your entire model. I am opaque. So, which makes it harder to do this sort of technique where you're sort of blending metallics into a non-metallic surface, just sort of give some depth to it. But we'll do little things to try and correct, but I'm not gonna worry about it too much. Final step on these and on all of the metallics is I am just gonna go give them a quick edge highlight with white aluminum. So just separate part of the palette, we're gonna grab some white aluminum. Yeah, I get you, man. Back injuries are the worst. Have you gotten in with the specialist yet to see whether or not there's operation available to you? Like, have you gotten in for? I mean, for me, they ended up having to do fluorescent dye to figure out whether or not they could actually. They were fairly certain it was non-operable when I went in, or after they did the MRI, but they did do a magnetic dye test or a fluorescent dye test just to see if there was a possibility, and turns out no. So now again, I am going for a second opinion because the surgeon that I saw, I have friends who are doctors who are like, maybe you want to talk to a different surgeon on that one, because I was talking to a general. That's not true. He is a good surgeon. He's a good man. It's just he is a surgeon, and he likes to he likes to play the surgeon game. He really likes his stats, and there are other surgeons that are more willing to help in more difficult situations. Oh, this looks awful. Not happy at all with where that went, but I will fix it with some black. All they'll do is physio. They don't like operating on spines. Yeah, that's same spot that I'm in. So I have a herniated disc on L5. It hasn't gotten to the point where it's prolapsed, but it is building up scar tissue. And on the occasions where it starts to build scar tissue really bad, I lose feeling in one of my knees. So it inflames, which builds more scar tissue, which, yeah, I'm certain that you can empathize with that. That is, yep. We're not sure what causes the inflammation to it, but it seems to be cyclical because I get about 6 months of it going into remission before I end up back to basically being unable to walk. When I manage my weight and really do my physio, really take care of myself, it tends to go into remission for a reasonable length of time. But yeah, it does seem to be cyclical for some reason. They have no idea why, so they're wondering whether it's allergies or something like that, but so far, nothing has come back on that. Just why it continues to get inflamed, because it does go into remission, which is cool, and I like it when it's in remission, but when it's not, it just continuously spirals on itself. So I didn't rinse out my brush, and I'm sort of regretting it, but that's whatever. We're trying to get to the end of this guy tonight, so what I'm doing is in these areas where he is going to have glow coming out of his orifices, I'm just coming in. So this is a combination of Soul Yellow, which is the yellow that I used on Panther, and right now I'm coming in. First I'm going to come in with our highlight green color, and I'm just the highlight green is grass green, spring green. So we're going to come in with spring green and just sort of outline our areas of glowiness here so that we've got some nice highlights, but I'm also trying to smooth off the surfaces and sort of knock back where we got that white ink a little everywhere-ish. Doing the same thing around the eye sockets here. We will justify this in a second with our... Sorry. Nice. I'm doing all right. How are you doing, Conrad? So we're dropping in, yeah, L4, L5, that sort of area is... So the first surgeon that the surgeon that I've had the consult with, who was unwilling to do the surgery, as I said, he's a really good man, and he's well liked in the surgical community, but he is very much a mid-career surgeon and is trying to move up within our local healthcare system. So he is unwilling to take big risks. And for anybody who's had a back injury knows, it is an immediate and irreparable quality of life. So everybody send good vibes to Mr. Ed. He's dealing with back problems right now, and I'm just empathizing with him because I have not quite as severe a back problem as he does, but I definitely feel where he's coming from on that. So if we can all send some cheer Mr. Ed's way, that'd be cool, because boy howdy, do back problems suck. They're just the worst. Especially now that we don't get cool drugs anymore. Well, as cooler drugs anymore. Not that I ever actually got to take Oxy, but the government of Canada no longer prescribes Oxycontin for anybody except for terminal cancer patients again. So, which kind of okay with that. The entire Purdue family can die in a fire as far as I'm concerned. But, well, maybe not all of them. or sorry, not the Purdue family, the Sackler family that owns Purdue. There you go. But yeah. I'm just working a little bit, getting this glow going on around his eyes, around these little vents on his arms. Just a little bit. We don't want this to go crazy. The thing with OSL is, the best OSL is very, very restrained, right? Like, you don't want to get too nuts with OSL. This guy is supposedly standing in sort of in front of somewhere that is bright-ish. He's not going to be projecting just a huge amount of light out of him. That's just not a thing that he does. So we will pretend that that's okay. I don't like where we're at with those blades, but again, we will come back. We'll probably do a little bit to fix them here as we get 10 minutes left. We got 10 minutes. Where am I going to spend the best time in my 10 minutes? Let's finish up the hair on Panther. And by finish up the hair, I mean, like, let's give her a little bit of a highlight so that she's at least got some sort of personality to her hair, as opposed to it just being like a flat black mop that it is right now. So again, we're going to come in at the part, give it a little bit of a highlight on either side of the part. I assume that my roommates are chasing my dogs around the house, otherwise I am in the middle of an earthquake. Either of those is happening, it's cool. Give me a like, maybe subscribe, perhaps follow. If you like what we're doing here, you can always give us a like. You can subscribe, comment, say hey. Because, you know, I like hearing from you guys. We are painting tonight. We are painting miniatures from the game Specter Ops by Plaid Hat Games. These are just games I had, or this is a game that I really actually, I enjoy this game quite a bit. And I was just sitting around earlier today and I was like, what am I going to paint on stream tonight? I was like, well, I promised myself many years ago when I bought this game that I was going to paint these minis, because seeing unpainted minis on models, or unpainted minis even in board games, makes me sad. So I felt like if I painted these model minis, maybe I would like convince myself that I wanted to play this game a little more frequently. Not that I need much convincing. This is one of those games when people are like, hey, you want to play Specter Ops? It's always a yes for me, so regardless. Just trying to get a little bit of a hair highlight done on the hair. Again, we are running short on time. So I'm just gonna give last couple of touches on all of these guys to sort of get them somewhere. Let's get a little bit of Caribbean blue. We're gonna get a little bit of white into our brush. We are gonna finish up this like little heads up display that Fox has on her eye here. So we're gonna get a little bit of a highlight into that corner. Hopefully, maybe. I'm gonna get a little bit of an edge highlight just up in that top right. I don't know what color is on that brush, but it is not what I was looking for. Let's try that again. All right, that is a little closer. Give it some definition up on the top side. We'll give this bottom corner a little bit of a highlight. We will drop some of this into each one of these wheels on her rollerblades down here. Just about there. Just about there. How are you guys doing tonight? What are you guys up to other than watching me on Twitch/YouTube? What is the situation? What is the happy hap? So you guys painting? If you are painting, tell us what you're painting, because I'd like to see what other people have got going on. I'm always interested to see what the rest of the community has got on their palettes right now, or what they are working with or working on or thinking about. We have several projects underway right now, and I just wanted to get something a little different done today on stream. So pulled out some board game minis. If you join us on Tuesday, we are back with Project Never Fallen Volume 3. We are doing our Loyalist Space Marine Emperor's Children, or Emperor's Child. They are still the Emperor's Children, right? So they are Loyalist Emperor's Children. Because, you know, the Horus Heresy never happens in our, like, lore that we're making up for this. Shopping a bit. Fair enough. Yeah, so that is on Tuesday. We're going to be working on our Emperor's Children, which includes one Fabulous Vial, as well as we've got our Space Marine out of his vat, out of the goo vat. Finally got my 3D printer back up and running properly, so we got a printed Space Marine that is going to be on his way. We also have, let's see, what else have we got going on? On Thursday, we are back with not with Project Never Fallen. Hell, that's on Tuesday. No, on Thursday, we are going to be working on our Blood Bowl teams. And this time we are back to the new Helmgard Giants. We're going to be working on Gray Beards. My puppy dog is whining at me because he's like, hey, man, you got to hurry up. You don't have much time left. You got to get this done. You got to get this looking good. You only got a few minutes, man. What are you doing? Also, he's locked himself inside of my room because he's not a smart dog. He's a Shiba, but he is possibly the dumbest Shiba I have ever seen. Wife's still decorating the man cave, so still no models. Yeah, that'll happen, man. I know you just moved recently, so I feel you. I feel for you, man. You'll get back to it soon enough. And also, new man cave, man. Could be much, much worse. Alright, I think I'm going to call it there. We are about 5 minutes before our typical end time, but I don't think there is anything that I can do in 5 minutes that is really going to improve any of these models. That's not true. I need some dark skin tone here, and I am going to give Panther some eyes. Because right now, he just has not a face. We're going to just give her some eyes. So I'm coming in with some dark skin tone just into the corner of her eye and underneath of her eyebrow. You can make a little bit of eyeshadow going on here. Make it look like she has got eyes for realsies, even though she's pretty squinty there. Give her a little bit of eyes. These also all have sculpted eyebrows, and if there's one thing that I could ever possibly tell every miniature sculptor who is ever going to touch another 32mm sculpture in the rest of their life, don't make sculpted eyebrows. Just don't put them on. Don't do it. Don't make sculpted eyebrows. They never look good. They do not work. I know that you think you're better than every other 32mm sculptor out there, but eyebrows don't work on sculpts this small. They just don't. Your eyebrows are not the size of 2x4s. At any rate, that is our troop for tonight. Those are our 4 models. That is 3 hours worth of work, and that is where I'm going to get to tonight. Not everything is perfect. By all means, go ahead and make fun of Mantis's Mantis Blades all day long, because they deserve it. Also make fun of his glow, because that is bad glow. I'm relatively happy with where Raven's at. There's little bits of him that obviously many more hours would change the way he looks. I'm not too disappointed in where Panther is. She's all right. We're also doing okay over here with Fox, but yeah, for 4 hours for me, that's not half bad. I mean, there is definitely speedier ways to paint these guys. There's definitely shortcuts that I tried that did not work out for us, but that's just fine. So again, if you liked what you saw, you can like, subscribe, follow, tell a friend that you found us. Tell a friend how to find us. We are Choice Minis. I am Choice Minis on Instagram. I'm Steve Thomas, first of all, but I am Choice Minis on Instagram, TikTok, your social media of choice. You can follow me on Twitter and watch me yell at the police, or you can follow me on TikTok and watch me yell at the police. Really, you can follow me on almost any social media and watch me yell at the police. But sometimes I post pictures of minis as well, so that's always a pretty good time. Let's see. You can follow my normal partner who is not here tonight. You can follow Adam Grimm at beach_vacation_Mando as he makes his incredibly slow way to a Mandalorian cosplay. You can support the stream by liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, favoriting, whatever. You know the drill. Hit the little stupid bell if you want to be on here every time we're up. If you want to subscribe, yeah, whatever. All that stuff that you already know how to do. You can check out more details about us at choiceminis.com, or you can go to willow.link, WLO.link/@choiceminis, and that'll give you basically all of the stuff to everywhere. We will be back on Tuesday at 8 o'clock Mountain Time. 6 o'clock Mountain Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock in the Pacific Time Zone. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys for hanging out. See you. Catch you guys later. Catch you, Mr. Red. Don't do nothing about white supremacy. ACAB. Peace.